FDA and hydroxychloroquine, COVID-19, the fun topic that everybody loves, that nobody covers for some reason. Like super important topic, but whatever, I guess. I don't know. Y'all just have to. I don't. Why is that? Why are no progressives covering any of this hydroxychloroquine stuff? Do y'all know? In all seriousness, this issue isn't all that complex. It isn't all that complex. I get how some, like when you're talking about getting into the actual research and development side, the actual practice of medicine and all that, okay, I get it, cool. But when you distill it, as far as the politics is concerned, it's an extremely important conversation. And it's some really easy questions that we could all be asking as people who have basic logic and reasoning skills. At least I would hope you have them. I would hope you have some critical thinking skills if you have a whole show dedicated to talking. And the reason I say that is because, so the question hasn't been posed, for example, why has no one asked, we're having all this conversation about vaccines and hydroxychloroquine, but why is no one asking what other solutions have been made available? And then, of course, then you find out there has been other solutions introduced. And then you have to ask, well, why haven't we been exploring those solutions? And then when they're talking about research, why has the research, what methodology are y'all using? And then there's contradicting narratives that also should be addressed, but that's not happening. And given everything going, our lives are being completely turned upside down with COVID, I feel like is an injustice. Like that the progressive community and the independent community in general is doing an injustice by doing one of two things. They're either hyper politicizing it, right? Democrats good, Trump bad, or the reverse, right? Trump amazing all the time, Democrats are the worst thing since Democrats. You're doing a disservice by hyper politicizing it or pretending like it doesn't exist because you don't want the backlash from doing common sense research. Y'all be more than willing to talk about the Hillary Clinton Victory Fund and Russiagate, and this is the same thing. It's okay. Everything can be influenced by money. Once you accept that, then there's no topic that is off, that should be off the table. And especially when we're talking about a pandemic like this. Sparky, you said the whole bread and circuses deal keeps us down. I agree with that. The core or MTH a core. It's Mook. What's up, Mook? Who's better with the ladies, Johnny or Pasta? Johnny looks like he has game, but Pasta's got his home cooking game on. Man, honestly, that's a hard one. That's kind of hard, bro. Cause Johnny can't cook. So we gotta just go ahead and get that out there right now. But he's smooth. He a Capricorn too, and I'm a Capricorn. So in Capricorn, we smooth, man. We some smooth operators. But Pasta is also a smooth operator too. Don't get it twisted. Pasta will sit there and woo you over. With every time Pasta go on a date, it ain't really like a date. It's like he's like, oh, I'm about to go cook for somebody. Oh, so you go on a date? No, man. She just invited me over to cook, so I was like, I go over there to cook for her. What you making, Pasta? A bunch of words I can't pronounce, cooked in ways I've never even heard of before. Just because they're friends. That boy think he's slick. You can't say nothing slick to a can of oil though. But they both smooth. But Fee is the smoothest. Don't get it twisted. Fee got girls and boys chasing after her. All right, we good. You said Pops can whip it in the kitchen. He does, man. He gets mad when I don't eat. Like if he cooks something like the day before or that day, and I'm like, I just was out, so I got something else, and he's like, really, bro? So you just not gonna eat my food? My food not good? Relax. I'm grown. I wanted something specific. Chill out. Not one of your dates, bro. Man, let's get started with this damn topic. If we don't mark it down, maybe you can let yourself know that way. All right, so fun topic. Well, no, it's actually kind of scary, but still fun. The FDA has decided to end emergency use of hydroxychloroquine for coronavirus. Now, before you get started, I'm sure there is a perfectly legitimate reason. No, there isn't. But we're going to investigate, okay? We're going to investigate. This is according to Politico. The Food and Drug Administration on Monday withdrew emergency use authorizations for 2 coronavirus treatments that President Trump... What the f... Why? That President Trump promoted despite concerns about their safety and effectiveness. Now, what did I just say, people? What did I just say? Didn't I just say those who are hyper-politicizing this issue are doing the entire country a disservice? And yet, here we are. In the opening paragraph, the Food and Drug Administration on Monday withdrew emergency use authorizations for 2 coronavirus treatments that President Trump promoted despite concerns about their safety and effectiveness. Concerns from who? Concerns from who? The safety, now it's not safe. It's crazy because last time I checked, chloroquine has been used for, I don't know, ever, like all the time by people. I mean, there are a lot of different reasons that people use it. I know rheumatoid arthritis is the most popular reason to use it. So now there's safety concerns though. And if you throw Donald Trump's name with any negative adverb or adjective, then it makes it true. Basically, that's what that means. Come on. The article goes on to say that the agency revoked the authorizations for hydroxychloroquine and chloroquine after a request from Gary Disbrow, the acting director of Biomedical Advanced Research and Development Authority. Okay. Well, Mr. Gary, Mr. Acting Director, which we'll go into why he's the acting director shortly. Now, if you're gonna make a request like that, you better have some damn good reasons provided, right? I think that everybody agree. As I scroll down this article, I should see study after study, after paper, after paper, after journal, after journal, after article, after article. Because I mean, that's a huge suggestion. And that, the bearing, like what the consequences could be overall could have a net negative effect on the healthcare overall in this country, not just involving COVID, because hydroxychloroquine is not only used to treat COVID, which people keep seeming to forget. So we're going to scroll down, but I got a feeling I'm going to be disappointed once again. It's just it's got this feeling. I'm just really good. I mean, it's not really good at it. I just assume that if it's the federal government, I'm gonna be disappointed because they don't ever use facts to validate their nonsense. It's just, well, I'm right. Don't you see my title? I have a really good title. You don't get this title by being wrong all the time. Actually, in our government, basically being right most of the time immediately disqualifies you from any legitimate job. But I digress. After reviewing new information from large clinical trials, the agency now believes that the suggested dosing regimens are unlikely to produce an antiviral effect, the FDA chief scientist Dennis Hinton said in a letter announcing the decision. Okay. Large clinical trials where? I'm confused. I'm so confused. What you mean large clinical trials? Bro, what the what are you doing? How are you going to say after large clinical trial? What qualifies as a large clinical trial? What does that even mean, people? How? What was the number? Because last time I checked, didn't EU just make a decision based off of a paper, a peer-reviewed paper that they had to throw out because it was bullshit? Didn't that just happen? And so we found out, of course, that the European Union had 3 countries that made a decision regarding hydroxychloroquine specifically that affected basically the entire EU, but specifically those 3 countries and everybody in those 3 countries. And it turned out that was a horrible decision to make because they didn't do what I thought to do before making a decision about how I'm going to go about this, which is, can you see the methodology? Can you see the numbers? And can that test be reproduced if you had all the, all the circumstances replicated? And the answer to that question so far regarding this particular decision in this particular study is can't be replicated. Okay? The study can't be reproduced so far as what I've seen. I can't see the methodology, so we have zero idea how they came to this conclusion because once again, last time this conclusion, which was what, 2 weeks ago, a conclusion very similar to this happened 2 weeks ago. And then, of course, I just am not seeing any veracity here. I don't see any verification, and yet decisions about the entire country's well-being is being decided off of information that we have no access to, apparently. The article goes on to say that critics have accused the agency of caving to political pressure when it authorized the use of hydroxychloroquine and chloroquine in hospitalized COVID-19 patients in late March, despite thin evidence. There was also no evidence that it was harmful. There was thin evidence that ventilators were a good idea, and yet you're paying hospitals to put people on them. Literally paying hospitals to say that COVID patients died on ventilators. Don't you think that's a problem if you have enough patients dying on a ventilator that it is now it's statistically significant to the point where you can provide funding based off of patients dying on a ventilator? Don't you think that's a problem? Because I ain't never heard nobody getting hydroxychloroquine and just dying the next day. But that has been the case for ventilators. That's a different discussion. All right. It says most recent randomized controlled trials have found the drugs do not benefit coronavirus patients. And doctors have reported that hydroxychloroquine can cause heart problems. Here, where have I heard this damn story before? I'm still waiting on a link to the study. Nope. But the FDA noted that the version of chloroquine that had been authorized for emergency use is now not approved in the US. So all use of that particular drug, which is donated by Bayer, B-A-Y-E-R, will now end. Just like that. Like I said, I'm still waiting. I mean, there's no link to the study. We have zero idea how they came to this conclusion. Oh, there's a letter though. There's a letter. This is what the letter says. This is by the BARDA, which is Biomedical Advanced Research and Development Authority. Right? That's what they said. Get ready for all these numbers I'm about to throw at you. We now believe that the suggested dosing regimens for CQ and HCQ, chloroquine and hydroxychloroquine, as detailed in the fact sheets, are unlikely to produce an antiviral effect. Okay, that's one bullet point. Earlier observations of decreased viral shedding with HCQ or CQ treatments have not been consistently replicated, and recent data from randomized controlled trial assessing probability of negative conversion showed no difference between HCQ and standard of care alone. Okay, ready for these numbers. Okay, current U.S. treatment guidelines do not recommend the use of CQ or HCQ in hospitalized patients with COVID-19 outside of a clinical trial, and the NIH. Oh, here we go. The NIH. Why am I not surprised? I was waiting for that to come up. It says, and the NIH guidelines now recommend against such use. And there we have it. It wasn't really the FDA's decision. It was the NIH's decision. The same NIH that is under the jurisdiction of Dr. Fauci. The same Dr. Fauci who is best friends with Bill Gates. Oh, it's like a damn broken record. Over and over and over again. It's if the NIH's name doesn't show up, Fauci's name shows up. If Fauci's name doesn't show up, WHO shows up. If WHO's name doesn't show up, Bill Gates' name shows up. A lot of the times, all those names show up together. And the only thing I can't ever damn get to show up when any of those names show up is a damn study linking and verifying anything that they claim. Never a study. I see Fauci's name all the damn time. I see Bill Gates' name all the damn time. I see the NIH all the damn time. I see WHO all the damn time. But what I never see is a damn study attached to anything they claim. The last bullet point says that recent data from a large randomized controlled trial showed no evidence of benefit for mortality or other outcomes, such as hospital length of stay or need for mechanical ventilation of HCQ treatment in hospitalized patients with COVID. So are you basically saying that people are dying? Everybody who's taking it has died? Because that's basically, that's a pretty, y'all, do you understand what type of burden, that like statistical burden that puts on the researchers? You're saying that no data has shown, or excuse me, that the data that you're using has shown that there is zero evidence of benefit for mortality. That basically means that a bunch of patients are dying while taking HCQ or chloroquine. And bro, what the? This is the same thing that was. This is the same thing that was claimed in the Lancet that had to be retracted. Do y'all know that? This is the same claim that was made. And if I have a feeling that when we finally are able to actually figure out where the study came from, why I got a feeling Bill Gates' name is going to show up somewhere. Why I got a feeling. Still waiting for these numbers, bro. Still no numbers. It says that, but there is a memorandum explaining the basis for revocation. Okay. This is a memorandum. Okay. The memorandum actually just talks about a bunch of bullet points too. But it does say there is emerging data and published literature. Whoa, it's a lot of syllables. Emerging data and published literature? Well, if emerging data and published literature has raised new questions, then of course we should be basing all of our federal policies off of that, literature. Oh man. So, nothing. Based on the above, the agency has concluded that it is unlikely that CQ or HCQ may be effective in treating COVID-19. Further, in light of ongoing reports of serious cardiac adverse events. Okay. Where are the reports? Once again, the standard is that this is the standard. They're saying that basically you're dying or you're suffering from serious cardiac events. In other words, you're having heart problems that are abnormal for those who take hydroxychloroquine. First of all, I want to see if they're actually giving hydroxychloroquine with zinc like they're supposed to. And I want to know if they're giving hydroxychloroquine with the other drug. I don't remember what the name of it is, but there's another drug that if you find out a patient has a heart problem, you're supposed to give them that in conjunction with the hydroxychloroquine rather than the zinc. I'm not a doctor, except a doctor told me that, and that's what all the other doctors are saying. But I hear no mention of zinc or the other drug in this particular study. So But basically the standard is that you either die, according to them, there's been a lot of people who've either died or just had serious heart. That is such a ridiculous claim. Oh, man. Okay. I'm trying to go back to this report for y'all to make sure I'm not crazy. So it says a brief clinical report on 100 COVID-19 patients in China reported clinical improvement and superior viral clearance with CQ treatment versus unspecified control. And then additionally, a clinical survey by French researchers involving 20 COVID-19 patients reported that HCQ alone, in combination with azithromycin, was associated with viral load reduction over 6 days. In the French report, the viral load changes were statistically significant compared to the non-randomized controlled group and were more pronounced in patients who received combination. Based on experience with other viral illnesses, it was reasonable to believe that reduction in viral load may be predictive of clinical benefit. They're explaining to you why everybody else has made it okay to use hydroxychloroquine. That's what they're basically doing, to explain why they allowed it in March to begin with, why they allowed emergency use. In fact, they've actually given more information right now as to why we should continue to using HCQ than they've given for not wanting. They're literally giving all the reasons for why they did the emergency use. And they haven't really, oh, here we go. Okay, there we go. So there is some published literature regarding viral shedding. The agency has reviewed additional published literature becoming available since the EUA was issued. Okay. So what do we have here? Oh my God, y'all. They said, so they had one test where the probability of negative conversion was this, about 28 days reported as similar. The median time to negative conversion was 8 to 7 days respectively. Proportion was similar at multiple time points. Okay, so what's the problem? So it says that out of the 50, oh, actually, they don't really say how many reported this. They just say a lot of people reported that it was either a similar feeling or that there was a negative probability of negative conversion, or their symptoms started receding 8 to 7 days after they started taking the drugs. But the moral of the story here is that they actually don't really provide any real studies. And the amount of days, one is 15.3, one is 5 days, another is 12 days. One is using HCQ plus antibiotics, another is lopinavir, ritonavir together, HCQ nothing. One did HCQ with zinc. Like, and it's crazy because they're using some Chinese studies, right? Problem with that is the Chinese also came up with a solution that they created with Cuba. None of those studies are there for that solution, for that medication. It's crazy how that works. They like to pick and choose. I actually have no idea who these people are. I don't know why they're being used. I seriously don't. I couldn't tell you why their information is being used, and why their literature, quote unquote, is being used as compared to other literatures that suggest clearly hydroxychloroquine is no more dangerous than using it in your everyday life. So if you could use it before, then it's okay. If you could not use it before, then you shouldn't use it. I mean, that's generally how medicine works. Just saying. So I just don't. I'm still trying to understand, because it's crazy, because they revoked the emergency use of the drug based off of basically flimsy, from what they're suggesting, not from what we can actually see, but from what they're suggesting, they're basing off of very flimsy evidence that it will do more harm than good. Very, very flimsy. Because last I checked, I did see one thing in these studies, or the little bit of the study that they provided for us, which is like a snapshot, if even that. I didn't see a lot of people who said they died. Not that you could report that, but that, once again, this is a standard that they've set. They said, oh, we can't, because for you to revoke the emergency use, it has to be more than just we're not seeing a good enough improvement. Because once again, that hasn't stopped them from demanding that we use ventilators. And the studies that show improvement from other drugs around the world that have been used now, successfully so, like in Cuba. Why aren't they have actually seen positive outcomes, and they have the data, and they're more than willing to give you the data to prove that they've seen the positive outcomes. And yet you're not reviewing those. And now over on the other side of the fence, you're claiming that people gonna die. Like that's what you're saying. That's the only way you can review. Like it has to be more than just not effective. It has to be harmful. And I'm not seeing any data that suggests that hydroxychloroquine is any more harmful in, was it June of 2019 than it was in January, or excuse me, 2020. Good God, June of 2020. Than it was in January of 2019, or January of 1998, for that matter. There are a lot of people who take this for rheumatoid arthritis. A lot of people who take this for, malaria. I mean, there's a lot of uses for this drug, and it was not considered dangerous, outside of the potential side effects based on your pre-existing health conditions, like every other drug. It was not considered dangerous. Let me get to some of these super chats. Sparky, if the government pushes a second wave quarantine, public will respond with a collective one finger salute. Government lies about politics, why not everything? I agree. I'm not down with a second wave of quarantine. I mean, it's just kind of hard for you to pitch this idea that if we do the social distancing and disinfect and wear masks, I mean, I take vitamin C, so, I'm good. But if we do all the things that we're supposed to do, it's supposed to reduce the likelihood of us getting the coronavirus, one. And then, of course, if you've gotten it before, supposedly you're supposed to build up the antibodies that protect you from getting it again, at least in this season. And then, there's a bunch of factors that's supposed to make it so that we're not, the quarantine was supposed to reduce a lot of the factors. But the reason that the quarantine was ended was because supposedly the likelihood of us getting the virus or contracting or giving it to somebody else had been reduced by the implemented standards. Like, you're going to interact at the grocery store, bro, you got a much higher likelihood of getting the coronavirus from the grocery store than literally almost anywhere else. Because you gotta go to the grocery store. This isn't like going to the club. This isn't like going to the bar. This isn't like going to the park. This isn't like going to the beach. People are there because they feel good, they look good, and they're trying to step out to enjoy themselves. You're not stepping out to enjoy yourself, you feel like trash. But if I gotta get groceries, I gotta get groceries. If I gotta go to the gas station, I gotta go to the gas station. That's not changing. And if these practices of social distancing and wearing a mask and all that good stuff aren't working, then you need to tell us. And the quarantine probably didn't have a reason to exist anyway at that point, right? So if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. You need to just be honest about it. But if it does work, then there's no reason why we should go into a second wave of quarantine. People should be, reading the play on the field. There should be adequate testing provided. Figure out if you have the damn virus, and then quarantine your damn self. That's how I feel about that. I'm not down to quarantine anymore, people. I'm just not. We've just seen so much happen negatively because of the quarantine, Mental health issues have skyrocketed. Obviously, we have too much economic strife in the country right now to go through another quarantine. The government is not cooperating with us. We can't survive another quarantine. I mean, we can survive, but it would be just that. Most people will be barely surviving, but we'll also have to be prepared to be homeless very shortly if we do another quarantine. Sparky, the FDA is the most corrupt federal agency going back decades. That's quite an achievement. I mean, it's a pretty damn good argument for that. You said, in like 5.7 billion times safer than Tylenol. You said, hold up. You said hydroxychloroquine is safer than Tylenol? I need an article for that, man. Don't be saying that. I'll take Tylenol every now and then. You said it's safer than aspirin too? Took lots of HCQ in the Army. No issues. Why not try? I luckily never had to take HCQ in the Army. I know people who have. People who have deployed to Africa generally have to take a lot of it. Is that it? Okay, cool. So yeah, man, this it's just not a good look, man. People who need this drug, like, do you know how successful it is? There was one study. There's a doctor who came out and said the problem with hydroxychloroquine plus a combination of zinc or the other drug, in which I can't remember the name of right now. But the problem with it is not that it's not effective, is that they have now, it's been so effective, at least in the way that he's applied it, that they are running short and can only use it now in cases where the COVID situation for a particular patient has gotten so bad that the virus has evolved so much that now they don't have they can't just treat you preventatively, and they can't treat you just because you are having some symptoms, or they can't treat you if you are asymptomatic, because that is not considered an emergency situation that they can use to justify giving you a medicine that they are now short on because it has been working. That is what I've been reading. That is also what a doctor told me. So and by the way, whenever I read these things, they're providing plenty of statistical data to support this. The doctor provided me with links to statistical data to support his claim, and yet every time I see Fauci, NIH, Bill Gates, etc., 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 I don't ever see no links to no study. I get things like, oh, after 4 days of rigorous studying of 25 patients and inconclusive data, we've decided that the data was at least conclusive enough that we can ban the drug in its entirety from being used. That's the kind of information I get from them. That's the kind of data we get. Don't trust it. Why would I? For what? I can't trust the FDA, the same FDA, who is refusing to acknowledge the other solutions regarding COVID, while simultaneously claiming that the reason they are banning one potential solution is because of health concerns and this need to protect life. If the need to protect life is there, then why aren't you investigating all the other solutions? Oh, maybe it has to do with the fact that, do y'all know the acting director? His name is Gary Disbrow, who was the one, or Disbrow, excuse me. He was the one who suggested we remove the emergency use authorization for COVID, right? He's the acting director, however. Why? Because the last director was removed. There's a whole quote unquote whistleblower thing. He was saying, what a surprise. He was saying in the last director, his name is, give me a second, Richard Bright is his name. And he said that the reason he was actually removed from the Trump administration was because he was blowing the whistle on COVID-19 for a while now. And actually, if you look, Trump has actually been talking about and taking steps to prepare since January, if I'm being real. He and the rest of the federal government have not even done close to enough, but pretending like Trump ignored all warnings. This is just not true, factually speaking. But Richard Bright, claims he was removed because he tried to get Trump to authorize research and to push for research into a vaccination in January. What a surprise. No, not find a solution. I know some of y'all might be thinking, no. What he really said was he wanted to find a solution in January And that's why he got, no. And I quote, he raised alarms about the brewing pandemic. He said, and lives were lost because higher ups didn't heed him. Pretty sure lives were lost because our healthcare system sucks, but that's neither here nor there. He said he faced hostility and marginalization from officials at the Department of Health and Human Services who ignored warnings to start work on a vaccine. Not, okay, let's figure out what solutions we potentially already have available so that we don't have to waste time, money on R&D, which is research and development, and we can instead focus on the distribution. We can instead focus on forming a coalition. We can instead focus on breaking down some of these trade barriers put in place by disastrous trade deals so that we can at least do what's in the best interest of the lives of the people here in this country. So if we have to temporarily break down the barrier with Cuba so that we can have access to their medication, if even only for research purposes, then we should absolutely do that. If we have to break down barriers with some countries in Africa, some countries in South America, et cetera, then that's something that we must do, especially because it can save time, it can save money, and these solutions are already available. We're not playing with fire. We don't have to guess what the potential long-term ramifications of a drug that has never been achieved, a vaccine that has never been achieved before, and then all of a sudden you blink, look up, and all of a sudden now the drug that y'all were never able to create is all of a sudden there. Now we don't have to guess whether or not there are going to be long-term ramifications of that vaccine. I mean, I just watched the damn drug commercial the other day, and me and my wife and my best friend were laughing. It was the funniest commercial ever, because basically we couldn't even tell you what the drug was supposed to do, but I can tell you all the ways that you could die from taking it. And they're like, but buy it. But consult with your doctor first. But buy it anyway. I don't even know what the drug did, but I can tell you how all the ways that you could die taking it, bro. And that's what's being advertised. That type of stuff. So I'm not saying that, like, warning that we should start researching into a vaccine is inherently bad if you are predicting a pandemic. But I am saying, if you're only advocating for a vaccine rather than doing what somebody who's actually trying to solve a problem would do, which is research every possible available solution already at your hand rather than reinventing the wheel, then I am questioning your intentions. And given that the memorandum was very clear that the NIH is behind this removal of the emergency use authorization for hydroxychloroquine, I'm questioning your intentions even more so. I think there's going to be a lot of backlash here. Like I said, when it comes to this hydroxychloroquine issue, where I disagree with Trump a lot, I know one thing's for sure, and two things is for certain. Donald Trump is a man who won't even smoke weed. He doesn't drink because he believes that his body is a temple. That's why he looks so great, guys. No, but in all seriousness, he doesn't do any of those things. He doesn't put things in his body, that are considered quote unquote foreign, that he doesn't research extensively. And he has more research and more people on his personal payroll and more access to information than you or I could imagine. So if he's like, I'm taking this, and the other world leaders are also saying they're taking it preventatively too, I'm going to probably go with the guy who got more access to more information than you do. Just saying. Especially when I know if there, once again, if there's ain't one thing for sure, two things for certain, that Donald Trump going to take care of Donald and Jay and Trump every single time. And that alone should be enough reason for people to raise an eyebrow and be like, why would he put something that's going to kill him if he saw the research? Just saying. And why are other world leaders doing the same then? So, I think we got a super chat. 2. Let's see. Oh, they're coming up late for me. TK Wiremu. Fun sad fact. In Maori, we say aroha instead of aloha. While most simplify it to mean love, etc., the literal definition is focus on their breath. That's interesting. And let me see. I think I'm missing one. What's the other one? What did it say?
CDC blatantly ignored COVID-19 initially, despite it being all over international news since the
I'm not seeing that.
stories in November 2018.
Let me try. There we go. I was able to pull it up separately. Okay, you said CDC blatantly ignored COVID-19 initially, despite it being all over international news since the bat suit stories in November 2019. You are correct. And the only reason I know that you're correct is because Tulsi was talking about this, and I distinctively remember, much to my shame, I wasn't the only one, but I distinctively remember in December and January, I was like at an event or whatever, and I'm like, man, why is she talking about this? This ain't gonna be a problem. We're good. It's all right. And she was criticizing everybody for taking this issue lightly. Already talked about trying to find solutions and taking advantage of solutions available. She was talking about this for a while. She introduced the UBI for a quarantine that hadn't even happened yet. We didn't even know we were going to be quarantined in March 13th, but Tulsi was so prophetic in her predictions regarding COVID-19 and the government's response to it that she was able to be ahead of the game. And so that's the only reason I even knew that. The CDC handled this completely wrong. What's new? The WHO has handled it wrong to the point where countries are threatening to leave the WHO because of how bad they handle this, countries in Africa specifically. I mean, Fauci is Fauci, so. But yeah, that's the way the cookie crumbles, right? The last guy who was in charge of the, what is it called? The DARDA, that research and development for disease prevention, all that good stuff. Before it was Gary Disbrow, before it was that guy, it was Rich Bright. And Richard Bright also wanted to exclusively focus on getting a vaccine. Not finding a solution, getting a vaccine. Not exploring all options, getting a vaccine. You get what I'm saying? You should always be skeptical in situations where someone tried to tell you that only one solution will do. And that solution just happens to be extremely profitable for a very few people. And all the other solutions would mean that it is far less profitable for those same very few people. Once you have that situation occur, you should immediately be skeptical of everything. Just saying. If you like that segment of Mikasa Sukasa, don't forget to like the video and smash that subscribe button. Want access to members only live streams, behind the scenes footage, and other premium content? Well, you can endorse us on Rockfin Premium, become a patron through Patreon, or you can sign up for the MCSC Premium membership through YouTube. All the links are in the description below. But hey, more than anything else, always remember,
Find your balance.
Find your balance.
Find your balance.
Find your balance. Find your balance.
Find your balance. Find your balance.
Always remember, more than anything else, find your balance.
peace.